Kazakhstan, 30 years of independence. Once we were part of one country, we were close neighbors, 15 republics of the Soviet Union. Much has changed since 1991, but one thing remained the same. We are still close neighbors today. How did the relationships between our nations develop in the past? What is happening now, and what are our plans for the future? How do people in our countries live and interact with each other? Kazakhstan and its neighbors in a special Qazaq TV project, Close Neighbors. Light rain is falling, border control, and the visa regime.
Граница наше государство.
The borders of our states are rivers. We also have 7 bridges. We didn't go through. The checkpoint is closed. Today is a day off, but the Prime Minister himself welcomes us.
У нас единственное правило есть.
We have the only rule here that anyone who thoroughly reviewed our constitution and at least once in his life visited our state can become a citizen of the Republic. Under the cover of the Prime Minister, we went to see the Constitution and found a Kazakh version. Just a couple of points of the main law. Everyone has the right to love and take care of a cat. Everyone has the right to doubt, but this is not an obligation. And no one has the right to infringe on the eternal Republic of Ajupis. It means beyond the river, or the other side of the river. Every person in his life has something across the river, and there he can do things he wasn't able to before. A few years ago, it was a criminal district of Vilnius, but then the city authorities decided to turn it into something like Montmartre in Paris. So we did. And even more, today it is a republic of artists, poets, and other creative personalities, and it's quite respectable. Within certain limits, of course. It has its own police force, a square of independence, and even currency. It's called Eurozas. And here are the official congratulations. I want to congratulate the people of Kazakhstan on the Independence Day. Lithuania, unexpected, unpredictable, and very warm despite the chilly weather. Well, how do you tell about the country which you have visited for less than a week, but which got under your skin literally right away? Probably only in episodes which are related, of course, to Kazakhstan. Well, you know, since gaining independence and restoring diplomatic relations, Kazakhstan and Lithuania have developed quite trusting and, despite the great distance, one would say good neighborly relations.
Я считаю, что большое влияние на развитие событий, на развитие наших.
I believe that the contacts between our states, including at the highest level, also had a great influence on the development of our relationships. Basты Nursultan Nazarbayev has had 2 official visits to Lithuania. Our president, Algirdas Brazauskas, has also visited Kazakhstan twice. And of course, these visits, as well as contacts, frequent contacts at the level of prime ministers, they always gave a kind of impetus for our cooperation to grow further.
Они всегда давали своеобразный толчок для того, чтобы наше сотрудничество дальше развивалось.
The Republic of Lithuania is a state in the northern part of Europe. It has access to the Baltic Sea. It borders with Latvia, Belarus, Poland, and Russia. Territory, 65,300 square kilometers, 121st place in the world. Population as of January 2021, about 2,800,000 people. Capital, Vilnius. National currency, euro. Diplomatic relations between the Republic of Lithuania and the Republic of Kazakhstan were established on June 15, 1992. To hit the high spots of Europe, it was in Lithuania that we fully realized, or rather fully experienced, the meaning of this expression. One crew is interviewing in Seimas. We are thankful to Kazakhstan that after all the historical memory is preserved there. Another one interviews the publisher of a famous Lithuanian magazine.
Я думаю, что литовцев и казахов объединяет.
I think that Lithuanians and Kazakhs are united by such human traits as hospitality and compassion.
И как сострадание.
Together we tried kibins and learned the history of the Karaids.
Караимский язык вообще относится.
The Karaim language generally belongs to the Kipchak group of Turkic languages. The origin of the Karaids is associated with the Khazar Khaganate. And although the country is small, there are so many things that unite us. And again, we're changing locations. Another episode, nautical, Klaipėda. You don't see this every day when the sea is made deeper. So that large ships can safely sail to Klaipėda. The northernmost ice-free port on the eastern coast of the Baltic Sea and the largest transport center in Lithuania.
Порт очень важный, как очень...
The port is important as a very large transport hub because we understand that the port attracts various industries.
Очень много всяких остальных отраслей.
It connects sea and land roads, which lead, among other things, to Kazakhstan, to another port in Aktau. And even in a foggy haze, prospects for cooperation are quite clear.
Говоря о Клайпеде и Актау, оба порта являются...
Speaking of Klaipėda and Aktau, both ports are the main ports in their countries, and they're also moving along a very comparable vector of active development. Klaipėda has generally been the fastest growing port on the Baltic coast in the last 5-7 years.
Самый быстро развивающийся порт на Балтийском побережье в течение последних 5-7 лет.
Мы сегодня очень рады, что мы сегодня имеем несколько категорий грузов, которые...
Today we are very glad that we have several categories of cargo that enter Kazakhstan or come here from Kazakhstan. Among them, of course, are tobacco, drinks, and food products. Lithuania supplies Kazakhstan with dairy products and cheeses, machinery and spare parts, fish, furniture, oil products, building materials, aluminum, and engines. Kazakhstan exports to Lithuania oil, fish, copper, corrosion-resistant steel, stone, and glass.
Нам интересно было закупать зерно из Казахстана. Казахстан тоже...
It was feasible for us to buy grain from Kazakhstan. We also send products to Kazakhstan, agricultural products. I also know that our entrepreneurs cooperate and work with your businessmen on breeding cattle. Breeding calves go to Kazakhstan and are being sold there.
Животными крупнорогатого скота, племенные телята едут в Казахстан, продаются.
By the way, the port as well as the city is one of the oldest in the country. In the middle of the 13th century, the knights of the Livonian order conquered the ancestral lands of the Balts and solemnly laid the wooden castle Memmelburg. And then merchant ships from Europe began to come here.
Что такое порт в Клайпеде?
What is the port in Klaipėda? Either we are a port city or we are a city by the sea that has a port. You know, in general, there are such discussions because our legislation is so interesting that the port is independent from the self-government, from the city. Here, the Day of the Sea is the main holiday, and it looks like the stern fisherman, washed by rain, is the main sculpture. By the way, it stands on a stone that was raised from the bottom of the sea when it was deepened. Run through the old cobblestone streets, find yourself next to the old building where the barracks used to be, and find out more about Klaipėda University.
Наш университет со своими суднами делает много научных проектов.
Our university with its ships is conducting a lot of science projects. Now the situation is changing and we see that climate is changing. Our scientists work very hard in this direction. I think that joint work with Kazakh scientists will also yield good results. And again about the sea. More precisely, the treasures that were raised from the bottom of the Baltic Sea, but one can look for them in the Caspian as well, offer Lithuanian scientists.
У нас производится уникальное исследование морского дна, морских.
We carry out unique research of the seabed and sea waters. You can also do this and share your experience, how it is done in the Caspian, how it is done in the Baltic Sea, what treasures we find underwater. We can look for treasures together.
В море, какие мы находим клады под водой, можем искать клады.
Meanwhile, in Kaunas, another film crew is filming in another university. And here is our compatriot. A Lithuanian consulate was opened in the East Kazakhstan region, and our school helped with the opening of the consulate. And so I became interested in Lithuania. So interested that she decided to apply for a grant, and everything worked out, and she likes everything. A small, cozy town, just a perfect student town. There are a lot of universities here, a lot of international students from different countries, and everyone is so friendly and sociable. And it's not uncommon to meet a fellow countryman here, says Guyana. About 300 students from Kazakhstan study at the University of Vytautas the Great alone.
Мы очень активные связи имеем, заключили договора с 25.
We have very active contacts. We have signed agreements with 25 universities in Kazakhstan. We have so-called double diplomas with 15 Kazakh universities, which means that young people start studying at some Kazakh university, then they come to Lithuania for a couple of years, and upon completion of their studies, they receive 2 diplomas from both the Kazakh University and the University of Vytautas the Great.
По завершении учебы они получают 2 диплома и Казахстанского университета, и университета Витаутаса Великого.
Passing by another university, a medical one, we find out that our training programs differ from Lithuanian ones and learn how to get a 007 agent license.
Резидентура – это когда уже человек получает диплом, он уже закончил, он получил теоретический.
Residency is when a person already receives a diploma, he has already graduated, he received theoretical knowledge, and now he will be preparing to become a specialist. For example, a cardiac surgeon. He also studies vascular surgery. He studies both chest surgery and cardiology, because not only do you operate, but also prescribe medications. And we have had this program for 7 years. 7 years of studying to get a James Bond license. That is how we joke.
Начиная, наверное, с 3-4 курса, они треть времени проводят с больными.
Probably starting from the 3rd, 4th year, they spent a third of their time with patients, in operating rooms, in research, in laboratories. They accompany these patients, discuss, participate in 5-minute sessions, participate in operating rooms, hold on to hooks there. Sometimes they fall. And no jokes about James Bond. Lithuania has one of the most developed healthcare systems in Europe. Lithuanian doctors have rightfully received worldwide recognition from colleagues and perhaps most importantly from patients.
Это связь между получением лицензии на деятельность и количеством процедур, что ты делаешь. То есть в Литве, если у тебя меньше, чем 300 родов.
The difference is that there is a connection between obtaining a license to operate and the number of procedures that you do. In Lithuania, if you have less than 300 childbirth deliveries, your license will be revoked. And this service is not paid for by the state insurance company. The same thing with some of the surgical interventions. If you don't do, for example, 500 coronographies, you won't be paid, because it means you don't have enough of patients.
Конечно, как парламентарию, как председателю группы дружбы с Казахстаном, мне очень интересно.
Of course, both as a parliamentarian and as the chairman of the friendship group with Kazakhstan, I'm very interested in economic development as well as our common work that we do in healthcare.
И сейчас мы хотим создать у себя здесь филиал Каунасского университета с тем, чтобы...
At the moment, we want to create a branch of Kaunas University in order to train doctors on the spot and not send them there. It's far more expensive than if their specialists will come here. We already agreed that in a couple of years we will have a training system. One must say that experience exchange is very productive. There are many Lithuanian doctors working in Kazakhstan. For example, this interview was filmed in Nur-Sultan.
Сюда интереснее ехать. Но это, конечно, была доковидная эра, и мы довольно много.
It's interesting to come here. This, of course, was the pre-pandemic era, and for about a year and a half, we had quite a lot, about 40 professors and instructors working in Almaty. They gave lectures, held classes there for both students and instructors. They admired the beauty of Almaty, the beauty of the Chirin Canyon.
Восхищались красотой вокруг Алматы всяких Чиринского каньона.
Well, our film crew went to admire the beauty of Kaunas. They say that it is the most Lithuanian city. The town hall square, in fact, the town hall itself, with an old dungeon and a prison, now is a museum. And the town hall is now a wedding palace. And this is the castle of Vaitaras the Great.
И одна из легенд гласит, что в замке.
One of the legends says that there are still ghosts in this castle, and you can get to know them. They're cute. One is a Lithuanian warrior. He can even play basketball with you. Here we go. Even ghosts play basketball here. It's a national sport. If a Lithuanian is not a basketball player himself, then he's an expert for sure.
Самые знаменитые и
The most famous one in Kazakhstan and everywhere in the world is our basketball club Zalgiris from Kaunas. We didn't have a chance to play basketball, but the mayor of Kaunas said that the city will become the capital of the European Union in 2022 and told about his travel experience to Kazakhstan.
Свозили на видео, но без лыж не пока.
They took me to Video, but I didn't have skis, so I couldn't ski. I spoke with your ambassador today, and again I wanted to go to Kazakhstan. I think I will definitely visit it again. As for the rest and sights, we are already in another city. That's how fast we travel. Palanga is the main seaside resort in Lithuania. Only recently there have been only a few tourists from Kazakhstan. The vice mayor of the city complains.
Когда-то мы видели их больше в другие времена. Теперь что-то...
Once we saw more of them in other times. Now there are a handful of them. But I invite everyone to come and see how our resort has changed and how nice and cozy it is here. November evening, sunset over Palanga. It's quite possible to imagine how the resort town looks like at its best. By the way, it is here that the museum of the main symbol of the country is located, and there is the main exhibit, weighing 3.5 kilograms. This is the biggest, the heaviest thing in this museum. Saulės akmens is a sandstone.
Saulės akmuo – это солнечный камень.
And here's a small digression, linguistic and historical.
Некоторые слова, например, в Казахстане и в Литве очень похожи.
There are some words, for example, in Kazakhstan that are similar to those in Lithuania. For example, the name Saulė, which is widespread in Kazakhstan, is also a common female name in Lithuania, but with an emphasis on Saulė. In Lithuania means the sun. What is the reason for such coincidence?
Литовский язык считается самым древним индоевропейским языком.
The Lithuanian language is considered the most ancient of the Indo-European language group, and it still evolves. And if we look for the closest language, then apart from Latvian, which is very close, the closest language to our language is Sanskrit. This means that after all, historically, somehow, the path of our ancestors passed through these lands.
И это означает, что все-таки вот исторически как-то путь наших предков, он проходил и через эти земли.
Several routes passed through these lands through Kazakhstan, the Ember Path as well. So through the region of Almaty and Taras, the caravans with the sunstone passed. And even now, the Baltic Ember is highly valued in our country. But first you need to check if it's not fake. A life hack from time immemorial.
Вот видите, это солёный.
Look, this water is saturated with salt, and now the ember comes out. It comes out to the surface. Now you can make decorations. Let's start. Let's make one pendant. And while the process of making a pendant is going on, let's learn some interesting facts. Ember is the golden resin of prehistoric trees. Inclusions are considered the most valuable. These are the ones that have fragments of ancient insects and plants.
Ну вот, понемножку, видите, открывается.
Here, little by little, you see it's opening. It's ember, its true color. Now it even has a little shine. The sunstone in ancient times and even now is considered healing, and in the Middle Ages it was even added to the elixirs of immortality. It has been proven that succinic acid restores kidneys, intestines, and the circulatory system. Well, now let's move on to another polisher. The word electricity comes from the Greek word for ember. Even 2,500 years ago, the Greeks discovered that if this mineral is rubbed against wool, it sparkles and attracts feathers.
Я думаю, что сперва как бы, ну видите, как он, сколько цветов.
First, you see how its color unfolds, how many colors there are. White, transparent, yellow. You see?
Ну вот.
We were advised to use blank for the pendant as a talisman and amulet. We were assured that it helps in work. By the way, about work, more precisely about one more episode. We know it firsthand. It's mesmerizing. You can look at this process for a long time, for a very long time, for almost forever. But the timing of the film does not allow for it. Vilnius planned for the production of solar panels. It is located in a building that is itself self-powered and not only.
Под нашим фундаментом этого всего здания, которое 33 тысячи квадратных метров, у нас 180.
Under the foundation of this entire building, which is 33,000 square meters, there are 108 wells, each of them 155 meters deep. These are 17 kilometers of wells under our building, and we use the warmth of the earth or the cold of the earth to heat and cool our entire building. Plus, we use the earth as a radiator. So as not to throw warm air out, we drive it through the water into the earth.
Выбрасывать теплый воздух наружу, мы загоняем это все через воду внутрь земли.
Green technologies in action. The building heats itself in winter and cools itself in the summer.
Долгожительность этой системы является...
This system's lifespan is about 50 years. Of course, wearable pumps need to be replaced, but they serve for about 12 years. It all paid off in 3.5 years.
В 2050 году у нас все электричество будет производиться из возобновляющих.
In 2050, our electricity will be produced from renewable energy sources. At the moment, 80% of heating in large Lithuanian cities such as Vilnius, Kaunas, Klaipėda is already provided by renewable energy. And I think that our experience could also be interesting for Kazakhstan.
И я думаю, что этот наш опыт мог бы быть тоже интересен и для Казахстана.
We took a little peek into the future. The next part is to follow the path of the ancestors. We have walked here more than once. By the beginning of the 15th century, Tokhtamysh Khan agreed with the Lithuanian prince Vytov to be friends against competitors. And when he failed to defeat everyone, he came to Lithuania. Not alone, of course, with his army. Vilnius, Tower of Gediminas, our days.
В то время была, значит, Золотая Орда, это монголы-татары, но потом стали даже нашими союзниками.
It was the time of the Golden Horde, the Mongol Tatars, but then some of them even became our allies. For example, Han Tokhtamysh came to Lithuania. He was hiding here. They received the land near Vilnius. Now the largest community of Tatars of Lithuania lives there. 8 kilometers from Vilnius, not far from the Minsk highway. Tatar village, its history is in its name. It's about how the Han soldiers were awarded.
Немежис – это когда-то давали землю.
Nemezis, this is when the land was awarded, and they gave the land without measuring. Depending how far a person can run, that's how much land he will take. You see? An ancient mosque built at the beginning of the 20th century. We are already welcomed, and by who? The descendant of Tokhtamysh Khan. However, Mufti Alexandras modestly says that no one knows this for sure, but that's how the family legend goes, and the last name is significant. Of course, I cannot say anything for sure, but my last name is Bekhansky. In total, there are about 3,000 Tatars in the country. By the way, the Lithuanian Seimas, an analog of our parliament, announced that 2021 would be the year of the history and culture of the Lithuanian Tatars. This year marks 700 years since the prince Gediminas made an alliance with the Golden Horde.
Татары, Кыпчаки, иначе Кыпчаки.
Tatars, Kipchaks, in our literature, even Tatars did not call themselves Tatars. They most often said that they were either gentry or Muslims, and their native language, of course, was the Kipchak language. Now, of course, they do not speak Kipchak, but the Kazakh words are understandable to Lithuanian Tatars.
Мы все здесь братья и сестры там, да? Поэтому очень рад.
We're all brothers and sisters. Therefore, I'm very glad to cooperate. We always maintain very good relations, both with the Embassy of Kazakhstan and with Kazakhstan in general. A smooth transition to another topic. What surprised us? There is a Federation of Togus-Kumalak game in Lithuania. It all started with the Embassy of Kazakhstan. How long ago? Well, this again was the initiative of the Embassy of Kazakhstan. They showed it to us. We tried to play it, and it became interesting to us. And then they began to interest the Lithuanian school children. They liked it too. And now they even hold Togus-Kumalak tournaments. Wait, where's my bag? Give me back which is at the top. No, you need to see this bag. And so we did. And we also heard a story about how Mukhtar Ovez's Path of Abai was being prepared for the reprint in Lithuania by Evgeny Sidorkin.
Казахский художник, все хорошо. А то, что он жил в Литве.
This is a Kazakh artist. He lived and worked in Lithuania, and there were even his exhibitions here. So, Path of Abai and Sidorkin seem to connect us.
Как будто связывает.
And one more surprise, it was discovered in Ethno-Cosmological Museum. By the way, this is the first museum in the world that shows the connection between man and space, from ancient times to our times. Fantastic combination.
Вот очень это интересная история про возникновение.
This is a very interesting story about the emergence of Baikonur, and that people in the past also said that Baikonur and its surroundings is the place where heaven and earth connect. And so a cosmodrome appeared there.
Байконура, и вот там появился космодром.
Believe it or not, we are talking about a Kazakh legend. The creator of the Kobuz, Kurkutata, went around all the corners of the world in search of the promised land, where they live forever, and found it at his own doorstep. In the early 1950s, this place was recognized as an ideal for communication with the universe. The weather here rarely goes bad, there are more than 300 sunny days a year, and the place is deserted.
Вот сколько ученые провели времени искать.
That's how much time scientists have spent looking for where to build the Baikonur Cosmodrome, while people in the past already have pointed out to a fairly accurate place. And I think that this story will be very interesting for our visitors. We will definitely tell you about it. So in the near future, the story of the Kazakh philosopher will take its rightful place in the Lithuanian Ethno-Cosmological Museum. A small result, we learned how the descendants of Toktamish Han live in Lithuania, why they make the sea deeper, how the earth heats the building. There are so many things, and how much is left behind the scenes. We want to come again. 30 years of independence, a new look at a long-standing relationship. Get a James Bond license and play basketball with a ghost. The Constitution in the Kazakh language, Togus-Kumalak tournaments, the secrets of the Sunstone, and where heaven and earth connect. Lithuania and Kazakhstan in a special Qazaq TV project, Close Neighbors.